Liam Spencer had never been afraid of hard choices. From boardrooms to broken hearts, from hope to Steffi and back again, he'd made mistakes, faced consequences, and somehow always clawed his way back to stability. But nothing had prepared him for the stillness that came with hearing a single phrase from his doctor: incurable, progressive, terminal. The diagnosis was rare, relentless, a neurological disorder that would slowly strip him of mobility, memory, and finally, dignity. Months, perhaps a year. That's what they gave him. No cure. Only treatment to slow the inevitable. A drawn-out, clinical countdown. But Liam didn't want a countdown. He didn't want sterile rooms, tubes, or becoming a ghost of the man his daughters remembered. So, after meeting with specialists, consulting with therapists, and enduring a gauntlet of emotion behind closed doors, Liam made a choice. He would not undergo the proposed long-term treatment regimen. No experimental trials. No drawn-out therapy. No fading slowly while others waited helplessly. He would live. Fully. Until he couldn't. And then he would let go. His announcement shattered the peace. Hope Logan, who had already weathered storms no mother should endure, didn't believe him at first. She thought he was spiraling, that he was in shock. She tried to reason, to convince, to beg. She laid out binders full of research, second opinions, European clinics. But Liam refused. "I'm not going to become a permanent patient," he said quietly. "I want my girls to remember their dad playing with them, reading to them, living. Not hooked up to machines and lost in his own body." Steffi, hearing the news from Hope, initially lashed out not at Liam, but at Hope. She accused her of giving up too easily, of accepting death before fighting for life. But when Steffi confronted Liam directly, she saw the clarity in his eyes. Not fear, not denial, just calm, and it shook her. The story didn't stay private for long. News spread through the Forrester and Spencer circles within days. Bill Spencer, upon learning of his son's condition, exploded. He demanded meetings with top neurologists, threatened to charter flights to Europe, and even offered to bankroll a private facility designed to slow the disease's advance. But Liam stood his ground. "This isn't a business deal, Dad. You can't buy me more time. Not the kind that matters." What followed was a tidal wave of emotion across Los Angeles' elite. The man who had been at the center of two powerful families was preparing to exit on his own terms, and not everyone was willing to let him go. Hope, torn between honoring Liam's wishes and protecting her children from premature loss, fell into deep internal conflict. Every moment with Liam became sacred and unbearable. She began documenting everything: his voice, his laugh, videos of him reading to Beth. She started a project titled Legacy, capturing memories for their daughter to hold on to long after he was gone. But it didn't feel like enough. It never would. Steffi, meanwhile, channeled her grief into confrontation. She challenged Liam daily, questioned every aspect of his decision. "This isn't courage," she argued. "It's surrender." But even as she fought him, she started breaking. She saw how every second Liam spent with Kelly was intentional. From teaching her how to ride her bike to explaining constellations, he was embedding himself into her life with surgical precision, creating memories not just to be remembered, but to live on through his daughters. Doctors weighed in publicly when the story leaked to the press. Ethical debates flooded talk shows and editorial columns. Is Liam right to refuse life-prolonging treatment? What defines quality of life in a world obsessed with survival? Forrester Creations found itself the center of a moral firestorm as both Hope and Steffi were pulled into media interviews, activist panels, and family counseling sessions that offered no clear answers. At the heart of it all, Liam remained composed. He began writing letters to his daughters, hundreds of them. One for every birthday, every milestone, every what if. He handed the first one to Hope privately, for Beth, when she turned 16. It was 3 pages, handwritten. Hope couldn't read past the first paragraph before collapsing into tears. He then gave one to Steffi, for Kelly, when she asks why I'm not at her wedding. The paper trembled in her hands. The anger she'd clung to melted away into grief. Despite their shared pain, Hope and Steffi began working together, not in desperation, but in unity. They devised a plan to alternate time with Liam, ensuring he would be surrounded by love, not pity. Ridge and Brooke offered their homes for retreats, peaceful places where Liam could focus on his daughters without paparazzi or pressure. Even Thomas stepped in, offering to handle Hope for the future indefinitely so she could be with Liam without distraction. No agendas. No rivalries. Just human connection. But not everyone honored Liam's peace. Sheila Carter, still lurking on the fringes, saw an opportunity. In her twisted mind, Liam's death created a vacuum. One that Finn could be pulled into. One where Steffi would need support. One where chaos could once again find fertile ground. She began orchestrating subtle manipulations, rumors about Hope abandoning her duties, whispers of Liam being selfish, even a forged report suggesting the diagnosis was exaggerated. But no one believed her anymore. Not this time. Bill, unable to accept his son's fate, began recording video messages to him, memories, advice, raw love masked in his usual bravado. "You're my son. Damn it. You don't get to go quietly." But even Bill knew he couldn't stop time. As Liam's condition advanced, signs began to show. His gait slowed, his speech at times slurred, and there were days his hands trembled too much to hold a pen. But his spirit never cracked. He used every lucid hour to be present, intentional. When Beth asked him, "Are you going away?" he simply said, "Not from your heart." The final chapters came faster than anyone expected. A quiet day by the beach, where Liam sat with both daughters on either side. A final family photo. Then, one last night surrounded by those he loved, in a candlelit garden at Brooke's estate. No hospital room. No beeping monitors. Just wind in the trees, the scent of jasmine, and his daughters falling asleep on his chest as he whispered stories they would never forget. Hope and Steffi held his hands as the night deepened. There were no speeches, no drama, just presence. When the sun rose, Liam was gone. But his story didn't end there. The aftermath shook Los Angeles. His funeral wasn't a spectacle, it was a celebration. Video tributes played at Spencer Publications. Forrester launched a commemorative capsule line called Anchor, inspired by Liam's stability and courage. Hope took over full-time leadership of Hope for the Future, transforming it into a movement centered on family, legacy, and intentional living. Steffi returned to the helm of Forrester with renewed clarity, balancing motherhood and business with the grace Liam had always admired in her. But perhaps most important of all, Beth and Kelly grew up not haunted by their father's death, but guided by his life. Through letters, videos, and the countless stories told by those who loved him, Liam remained their constant. And in the end, the bold and the beautiful reminded the world that sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is choose how he says goodbye. The heart of John Finn Finnegan was a battlefield, and no one in Los Angeles knew just how close it was to breaking. From the outside, Finn had everything: a loving wife in Steffi Forrester, a beautiful family, a stable career, and redemption from the dark shadow cast by his biological mother, Sheila Carter. But the truth was far more complicated. Because Finn's life, his marriage, his sense of self, was quietly unraveling under the weight of a secret no one was supposed to see: his growing, uncontrollable feelings for Luna Nozawa. It started with small things. A glance held too long, a laugh that lingered, a conversation that went deeper than it should have. Finn told himself it was paternal, protective, maybe even misplaced empathy. Luna was young, vulnerable, adrift, still wounded by the truth about her paternity. But no amount of self-denial could erase the chemistry that pulsed between them. And worse, every time Finn looked at Luna, he saw a mirror of everything he didn't understand about himself. The mystery, the yearning, the chaos in his blood. She wasn't just a temptation. She was a tether to a side of him he'd buried since learning Sheila was his mother. He tried to resist. He pulled away, focused harder on Steffi, took on more hours at the hospital, suggested family vacations, romantic dinners, anything to recalibrate the balance. But the guilt grew, and Luna only got closer. Luna didn't plan to fall for Finn. She didn't plan anything, except the desperate need for a father figure in a life defined by absence and betrayal. But the moment she learned Finn was her father, everything shifted. She saw him not just as a man, but as a lifeline. And when he didn't embrace her fully, when he began retreating behind awkward professionalism and polite avoidance, her desperation turned inward, then outward. Sheila saw it all, watched from the shadows, reading the body language in every glance, every casual interaction. She didn't interfere, not yet. She knew better than to rush an implosion. Instead, she planted seeds. A gentle nudge here, a private warning there. "Don't trust Steffi," she whispered to Luna. "She doesn't want you in that family." She never did. The words stuck. When Luna overheard a tense exchange between Steffi and Finn, Steffi accusing him of being too soft with Luna, too forgiving, something inside her snapped. The heartbreak twisted into resentment. Steffi had everything: the marriage, the title, the legacy. And now she wanted to push Luna out of the only place where she felt seen? Luna decided it was time to fight back. She began watching, listening, digging. She knew Forrester Creations inside and out. She'd sat in on enough meetings, seen enough financial documents left carelessly on desks, and overheard enough whispered strategy talks to know there were weaknesses. Real ones. A misplaced investment here. A product line over budget there. Nothing illegal. Not yet. But enough to raise questions, enough to turn board members against Steffi if framed the right way. Luna gathered data silently, built a dossier. And when the time was right, she anonymously leaked a report to a major fashion finance blog. The headline hit like a slap across the fashion world: cracks in the creations, financial missteps under Steffi Forrester's leadership. The response was immediate. Shareholders panicked. Media outlets circled. Steffi was blindsided. She launched an internal investigation, furious and under pressure, suspecting sabotage, but unable to trace the source. Finn tried to support her, but something in his eyes betrayed his confusion, his guilt. Steffi felt it. The distance. The static in their once perfect bond. And for the first time, she asked the unthinkable, "Is there someone else?" Finn said no. But the hesitation, half a second too long, said everything. Meanwhile, Luna wasn't finished. She arranged for a casual leak of internal emails that suggested Forrester had falsified projections to secure a contract with an overseas distributor. The emails were technically real, but taken out of context. Enough to suggest unethical behavior. Enough to call Steffi's judgment into question. The board called an emergency session. Brooke, Hope, and even Ridge urged Steffi to step back temporarily. "Let it blow over," they said. "Protect the brand." Steffi refused. She knew this was war. And somewhere deep inside, she suspected the enemy wasn't across town. She was in the building. She was family. Luna, emboldened, began plotting her next move, A surprise appearance at the next Forrester runway showcase, where she would walk unannounced as the final look, wearing a gown she secretly designed, one never approved, never reviewed, and carrying a coded message, "This empire doesn't belong to you." But nothing in LA stays hidden for long. Sheila finally made her move. She approached Finn late one night, holding a tablet, showing him security footage from Forrester. Luna, after hours. In the archives. Copying files. "You think she's just confused?" Sheila whispered. "She's not just after your love. She's after your life." Finn exploded. He confronted Luna, demanding to know what she was doing. She didn't lie. She couldn't. The pain in her eyes was too real. "You don't want me. She doesn't accept me." "What am I supposed to do, Finn? Disappear?" That night, Luna kissed him, and Finn didn't pull away. The guilt hit the next morning, like fire in his lungs. He confessed to Steffi not everything, but enough. The emotional betrayal, the kiss, his confusion, his failure. Steffi was destroyed, not because of the kiss, but because of the choice. "You didn't protect us. You didn't protect me." She walked out. Now the family truly began to crack. Steffi moved in with her father temporarily, pulling the kids with her. Finn stayed in the house alone. Luna disappeared, resigned from Forrester, ghosted all communication. Until the showcase. At the runway event, lights dimmed, music swelled, and Luna appeared in the final look, head held high, eyes locked on Steffi. The crowd gasped. Phones flashed. Behind her, projected on the screen, were slides of the original Forrester financial documents she had exposed, only now, annotated with her corrections and suggestions, proving Steffi had hidden key errors and reshaped numbers to protect her leadership. The crowd turned. But not on Steffi. On Luna. Because the annotations revealed her access, her edits, her manipulations. She had forged part of it. The board immediately ordered an investigation. Ridge stormed the stage. Steffi slapped Luna. The event collapsed into chaos. And Finn? He walked away from it all. In the following days, Luna was formally disassociated from the brand. She tried to explain, tried to reach Finn, but he refused to answer. Sheila, standing by the fire at her cabin, smiled. "That's the thing about family," she said to no one. "You can love it. You can destroy it. But you can't ever escape it." Steffi filed for separation. Finn returned to medicine full-time. And Luna. Luna vanished from Los Angeles. But the damage was done. Not just to a marriage. To trust. To legacy. To identity. And as Sheila looked down at a blood-stained copy of the Forrester financials she'd stolen long before Luna ever found them, she knew her plan had worked better than she dreamed. Because in the bold and the beautiful, nothing poisons the heart like the truth twisted into a blade. And the deeper the love, the sharper the cut.